All right, so now we're going to talk about the motion to dismiss. I'm going to walk you through each individual segment. We're going to talk about the individual arguments and stuff like that that you should kind of be thinking about when you are posing it to the court on why they should dismiss this particular case. As always, I've attached a template that gives you the proper Georgia formatting. And you want to make sure that you read and replace anything that does not apply to the complaint that you are drafting, specifically all of these particular areas. And then there's also going to be instructions and stuff that are also going to need to be removed as well, but we'll get to those. Now, don't forget this caption area at the top. You want to make sure that it is all in bold. Now, since this is coming from the defense side of things, you're going to already have your court laid out for you up there. So we're going to take the Superior Court, County of Cobb, and we're going to transfer Superior Court here, County of Cobb here. Then we're going to go back over here, and it says Amy Ray Davis versus the student. Okay, so we know who the parties are. Come back over here and enter in the names. They should be all capitalized and bold. And again, my name should be spelled correctly. It should not just be Amy Davis. It should be Amy Ray Davis because that's what the document says. Also, make sure that you are paying attention to detail on how to spell my name. In terms of your name, unless your name is student, do not put student. I use that as a generic placeholder so that everybody can, enter in their own names. Then we have versus, which is in lowercase bold. And then we have the parties, which is uppercase, just the first letter, rest lowercase. And don't forget, it's also indented some as well. Then we have our divider line and our civil action file number. Now, we are given our civil action file number, which is 23 CV or 8974. Since we have this number, we will come back over here and we will remove the line and we will put the number there instead. Okay, we don't need a line. That line is there if you just want to handwrite it, if you need to handwrite it on there, but we don't need to do that because this isn't an initial filing. Then we're going to go to the title and it says motion 2/4. Pick a lane. Is it 2 or 4? Okay, and then we're going to have the dismiss part. All right, so we want a motion to dismiss, or you can have motion for dismissal. I don't care, but again, pick your lane on the 2 or 4. I should also add too that the title is in capital letters and bolded, underlined, and centered. Now we're going to come to this part right here where we're going to add the defendant's name, which is going to be your name, right? And you do not typically put it in bold. I mean, not bold, but uppercase. We typically just use the standard first letter of each name, uppercase. Again, you would add the attorney here if you want to keep this in. You don't have to keep this in. Again, I think it's easier to train you on where things go so that you can take it out rather than trying to train you on where things go later on. And then you're going to come here. You're going to pick a lane 2 again on the 2/4. And the rules of grammar state that we do not capitalize these. So we are going to only capitalize the dismiss part with the capital D. We're going to make sure that it's also in italics. Please make sure you remove every single asterisk as well. Now we're going to go back to our body paragraphs. And these are not going to have your standard jurisdictional statements or anything like that. We are just going to jump right in. Note that you still have your paragraph numbers, and I've set them up so that they are in the middle. This doesn't have to be the case, but we typically do put them here and underline them if you're going to use this particular format. You can also put them over to the left and do a standard left justified everything. But in the event that you happen to backspace too much and you go back down and enter, please do not leave your body paragraphs centered and or underlined. It's not professional looking. You would not turn that into a court. Also, I have these here so that you have the ability to continue the format with a copy and paste, and you just have to go in and plug in the numbers. Remove the asterisks and please put in the numbers for your paragraphs as you're going through. And also, please make sure that you remove every single ounce of the directions that I give you, because I do put it in here so that you can have, a refresher of what it is that you need. Now, I have one thing that I want to note right here on this one. It says that you can also motion back with other things like motions for contempt, things like that. And you would set it up in segments. If you remember the answer counterclaim part, it had like answer, and it was done in bold and underlined and centered and all that. And then it went into all that information. And then it had the counterclaim, same setup, and then it went into that information. It would be the same thing here, because you can motion for, say, contempt and maybe to compel something. Or you're asking for them to have to, provide information. And in the event they don't, you're asking for the court to go ahead and give you a contempt ruling. So you can put in those multiple things, but it would just be sectioned off accordingly. At the end of it, though, you're going to, again, reiterate that you're asking the court to dismiss something, because just like with any other pleading, we want to make sure that we give the relief that we're looking for, so that nobody can come back and state that we did not, give a claim upon which relief can be granted. So again, we're going to give our reasons, and then we're going to reiterate that we want them to dismiss it. Now, in our actual complaint over here, let's kind of go through it section by section, because I want to kind of point out some of the things that you're going to need to take note of as you're writing this. So we have first that the plaintiff is a resident of Cobb County for more than 6 months. Again, this part right here, the 6-month part, doesn't matter, because this is not a case where it has a jurisdictional requirement. And again, I leave this kind of stuff in just because it's easier to teach you where something might belong, so that you can take it out, and use it as you need to. But the plaintiff is subject to the jurisdiction of that court. Now we have where the defendant is also a resident of Cobb County. It gives the address. They're subject to the personal jurisdiction of the court. Therefore, jurisdiction and venue for the above styled action are proper in the Superior Court of Cobb County. Chose Superior Court because Superior Court is typically your general jurisdiction court. Then we have where they may be served at their residence, stated in paragraph 2. And I meant to point this out to you too. I have the 2 on there, and you can use that, but I always like to point this out and show that we typically will write out, based on the rules of grammar, the numbers, TWO instead, but it would be with a capital T. Or it can be at her place of employment. And as you notice, I left off the period. And I want to stress this because it's really easy to show that, or to miss those kinds of things. So just kind of make sure that you backtrack over yourself and look and see, did I put a period at the end of each sentence in those paragraphs? Then we have where we're stating what happened, or the date at which something happened. So we're setting up our timeline here. And that's where we have the person who's moving in to the home that was built on their land on January 1st, 2023. Now we're providing the court with a map of what that property looks like. And we're telling the court that this land is landlocked. And we've marked it as Exhibit 1. Now, I wanted to show you too, down at the bottom where I put these. On a lot of your stuff, I noticed that you guys would have a number for your next paragraph, and then you would go to the next page for the paragraph itself. Don't do that. Go ahead and move it. Remember that you're always writing for the reader, basically. And you're trying to make it so that it's easier for them to reference and read as well. Okay. But it is easier to kind of go back and when you're answering something, put in there, paragraph 2, it's all right here, instead of going, oh wait, what paragraph is that? Is this still a continuation of whatever? Just add it. Okay. But I add those lines to symbolize that that is intentionally left blank. So then I move it to the next page and I start my next paragraph there. Now, this would be the Exhibit 1 that was put in there, and it shows that your property is it's landlocked, meaning that it is not it doesn't have access to the main road. So going forward, it says defendant has been using the plaintiff's driveway that connects to an old trail that was once used for riding all-terrain vehicles through. This trail touched defendant's property. Now, this one right here, I want to note, has a mistake in it. And this is, again, an easy way to miss something, but it's not going to actually change the case itself. So in the event that you argued this, know that it won't pass muster overall. But it says plaintiff has verbally asked defendant to stop trespassing on her land, and defendant recently sent defendant a cease and desist through certified mail that was not responded to as requested. Why would defendant send defendant one? Okay. Again, it's implied though that it was the plaintiff, and this would be seen as a simple typo that is, it's fixable. It's not. It's implied anyhow. Then we have plaintiff is not the only neighboring land that has road frontage. Defendant claims that they have tried to contact the other neighbor, but they cannot find the landowners. Their parcel is undeveloped. Plaintiff is requesting that an injunction be placed against defendant to force them to stop using plaintiff's property as a thoroughfare. Plaintiff is further requesting to have defendant pay nominal damages for the trespass. And this is one of those things that if you haven't had torts yet, or you have forgotten, trespass to land simply means that you intended to enter into that person's land and that you did. Okay. It does not matter whether or not you damaged the property or not. So don't argue that. All right, so now we have that the plaintiff is asking the defendant be made to pay punitive damages for the continuous use despite the request for them to stop. Moreover, the defendant has also willfully ignored the request in the cease and desist. Then we have where plaintiff is also asking for costs that were associated with bringing the matter, to the actual court itself. And down at the bottom, you can see we're asking for the court to enter an order in favor of the plaintiff because that's always first. We are asking that the plaintiff be granted an injunction against the defendant's trespass, that the plaintiff be awarded the nominal damages, that plaintiff be awarded punitive damages. Then we have that the plaintiff also be awarded costs that were associated with the case, that the court enter an order granting any other relief that was requested in that complaint, which there wasn't any, but had there been, something else that was added that wasn't recited right here, then that's where that would come into play. That the rule needs to be scheduled by the court to decide on the relief requested. And notice that at the end of each one of these, there's a semicolon. And when we get down to the one right before the last, we always add the semicolon and then we put and, because we're asking for that entire list of things that the court order any and all other relief that the court finds appropriate. Now, remember, go back over here to this. You can see where the trail around is the one that is the person that you're supposed to be using, right, to get to your property. And again, it's coming from that main road onto your property. And again, you don't have any other way to get there. So let's talk about what it is that you're going to argue. Now, again, don't forget to go back in and take out all the directions and stuff. Some of you have definitely left them in there, but this I want to point out. Again, you can make up any facts that you need. Just again, that you're not changing the underlying factors here, right? And I've given you some basic stuff to kind of work with. So let's talk about those. Now, it says to only argue the reasons that the dismissal should be granted. And again, you want to put it in chunks like we've been working on. You don't want to break it down into smaller ones because that's when you start having to add the bullet points and stuff. But again, just don't do it. I know it says that you can make it a small petition with a very detailed brief that's attached. Don't do that either. Nobody's asked for me to give them an example, so I'm assuming either everybody overlooked this or they decided, no, that's not for me. But again, let's talk about the things that you do want to argue. If your land is landlocked, you have the right to be able to get to that particular property. Okay. So in that event, you have the right to get access through an easement for that. And you can look up easements by necessity, and that would allow you to be able to get to your property. Now, it might not be through that same trail, and maybe you went about it the wrong way, but you would still be able to get access in some way, shape, or form. Now, the one thing that was brought up in terms of the plaintiff was stating that you claimed that you had reached out to the other neighbors and you couldn't figure out who they were. And that's something that you can kind of make up some details on to show like why you couldn't get a hold of that person or whoever that was. Maybe it was owned by somebody who's now dead and you don't know who's over the estate, or maybe the person has gotten married and they didn't change their last name. Like, you can come up with all kinds of different things. Maybe they've been kidnapped. Maybe they've been on the missing list. Maybe they're on the FBI's most wanted list. Come up with whatever you want for why you couldn't get a hold of this particular person. But that is something you do want to argue, because you want to show the court that you have acted in good faith, and you want to show that you have, done your due diligence, right? And in terms of that, remember also that the other land for that neighbor is undeveloped. The land of mine has been developed. So you want to focus on that as well. So break these up into smaller chunks. Do not write all of that kind of stuff together. You want to address each individual thing in its own little separate paragraph. The reason that we do this, by the way, is so that when we are having to respond to something, it makes it easier to respond to it instead of like having to do the, as to this particular portion of this particular paragraph. We don't want to have to do that. We just want to be able to say, as to paragraph 1, plaintiff or defendant denies da 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 because of whatever. It makes it easier to sift through the information. It makes it easier to, it's just easier overall. Anyhow, so just kind of keep that in mind. Now, down at the prayer, please note that it does say, wherefore plaintiff prays. And this is a very good example of how we use templates and sometimes forget to change things. So always make sure that you're looking in this particular section as well for making sure that the right label is being applied. Now, in this particular case, we have asked, we've given our reasons. Make sure you also have that reason at the bottom that says we're asking for the court to dismiss this particular, complaint or whatever. And right here, it's just very simply that we want them to dismiss it. So we want the court to enter an order in favor of the defendant dismissing the plaintiff's action, whatever it is. And then we also still want to keep that we want any and all other relief that the court finds appropriate. After that, you want to make sure that you put in that a proposed order has been attached. Court's most likely not going to use that order, but again, still put it in. Then we give the day of the month and the year. And remember that it is written as like the 6th, which is the number 6 with the TH, and then the month, comma, the year with a period, because again, a lot of people are missing the commas and the periods. Then we come down here and we enter in the attorney's name. And we add in the address, and we remove enter address, and we remove the parentheses, and we write it just like it's on an envelope with the street address, and then on the next line, the city, state, and zip, and then we also add their bar number. And last but not least, we do not sign it. It is just being prepped for the attorney. And that's pretty much it. Let me know if you have any questions about this particular document. Bye.